Captain Zekathar of the Galactic Coalition's elite scout vessel Nebula Seeker, stared at the message on his screen. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress in his species. The High Command had just assigned a human to his carefully selected crew. The mission to explore the dangerous Vortex Nebula would launch in 3 days, and now he had to deal with this unexpected change. A human? On my ship? He muttered, his mandibles clicking together. He had worked with many species across the galaxy, but humans were still new to space travel. Only 80 years since their first faster-than-light journey, they were babies compared to the other Coalition races. Lumi, his second-in-command, glided into the room. Her crystalline body caught the light from the ship's windows, sending small rainbows across the walls. "You seem troubled, Captain." "High Command has assigned us a human crew member," Zikathar said. He showed her the message. "Name Susan Carter. What do they expect a human to add to our mission? We already have the best specialists from 7 different worlds." Lumi's body flashed blue, her way of showing amusement. "I have heard stories about humans from other ships. They are different. Different is not what we need in the Vortex Nebula. We need reliable, predictable, safe." The captain's skin darkened to a deep purple. "This mission is too important." Lumi's crystal form shifted slightly. "Perhaps High Command sees something we do not." The next day, Susan Carter arrived on the station where the Nebula Seeker was docked. She carried one small bag and wore the standard blue uniform of the Coalition. She had brown hair tied back in a simple style and warm brown eyes that looked around with clear interest. She was shorter than many species in the Coalition and had no special features like extra limbs, scales, or glowing parts. Cathar and Lumi waited at the docking area to meet her. "Captain Zekathar?" Susan extended her hand, then quickly pulled it back. "Sorry, I forgot your people don't shake hands. Permission to come aboard, sir?" She gave a formal Coalition salute instead. "Granted, Specialist Carter." The captain returned the salute stiffly. "This is Commander Lumi, my second-in-command." "Nice to meet you, Commander." Susan nodded respectfully. "Thank you both for having me." "It was not our choice," Zikathar said bluntly. Susan's mouth twitched slightly. "I understand, sir. I'll do my best not to get in the way. Your record states you have served on 2 previous Coalition vessels, but this will be your first deep exploration mission." The captain's tone made it clear he thought it should stay that way. "Yes, sir. I served 6 months on the Star Drifter as a communications assistant and 1 year on the Horizon Seeker as a general specialist." "And what exactly is your specialty, Specialist Carter?" Zekathar asked. Susan smiled. "I'm good at solving problems, sir, and please, everyone calls me Sue." Lumi led Sue to her quarters, located between Dr. Grail's lab and Vingzora's navigation station. The ship was designed to accommodate many different species, so Sue's room had standard gravity and air suitable for humans. "The crew eats together at 1800 hours, Lumi explained. "Captain Zekathar believes shared meals build unity." "I'll be there," Sue promised, setting down her bag. "How many crew members are there total?" 12. "You are the 13th. Lumi's crystal body flickered with light patterns. "Some of my people would consider that unlucky." Sue laughed. "Some of mine would too." "You are the first human many of the crew have worked with," Lumi added. "They may be curious or suspicious," Sue said with a knowing look. "Perhaps both." Lumi's body glowed softly. "May I ask why you wanted this assignment?" "The Vortex Nebula is dangerous." Sue looked out the small window at the stars. "Because it's unknown. Humans are drawn to explore the things no one has seen before." She turned back to Lumi. "Also, I requested any deep space mission. The Coalition assigned me here specifically." At dinner that night, Sue met the rest of the crew. There was Dr. Graal, a methane-breathing scientist who wore a special suit to survive in oxygen environments. Vingzora moved on 8 tentacles and had eyes that could see in complete darkness. The pilot, Jex, had 6 arms and skin that changed color with his mood. Each crew member was the best in their field. The ship's engineer, Kraz, was the least friendly. He was a large reptilian with orange scales and sharp teeth. He looked at Sue with obvious dislike. "What is your specialty, human?" he asked during the meal. His voice was deep and rough. "The mission roster just says human specialist. That is not a real job." The table went quiet. Sue took a bite of her food before answering. "I'm a problem solver." "That is not a specialty," Kraz said. His scales darkened with annoyance. "Maybe not where you come from," Sue replied calmly. Captain Zichthar interrupted. "Specialist Carter has been assigned to us by High Command. She will assist where needed." "Wonderful," Kraz muttered. "A tourist." Sue smiled at him. "I may surprise you." After dinner, Sue returned to her quarters and unpacked her few belongings. She placed a small plant on the desk and a picture of Earth on the wall. Then she studied the mission briefing again. The Vortex Nebula was unexplored and dangerous. Strange energy patterns, unknown radiation, and possibly even spatial distortions made it a challenge to navigate. The mission would take 6 months and they would be far from any coalition help. If something went wrong, they would be on their own. Sue lay on her bed and looked at the ceiling. Tomorrow they would launch. The crew clearly didn't want her here. The captain thought she was useless. The engineer openly disliked her. She smiled to herself. This wasn't the first time humans had been underestimated, and it wouldn't be the last. She just needed a chance to show what humans could do. The next morning, the Nebula Seeker departed the station. Sue stood on the observation deck and watched, as they left known space behind. Ahead lay the swirling colors of the Vortex Nebula, beautiful and deadly. Scared human? Kraz had come up behind her. "Excited," Sue corrected him. "This is why we joined the coalition, to see things no human has ever seen before." Kraz made a noise that might have been a laugh. "You might not live to tell about it." "Maybe not," Sue agreed. "But that's the risk of exploration. My ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats, not knowing what was on the other side or if they would ever return." "Your species is strange," Kraz said. Sue looked back at the nebula, its colors shifting and dancing in space. "Yes, we are. And that might be exactly what this mission needs." 3 weeks passed as the Nebula Seeker traveled deeper into the Vortex Nebula. The swirling colors outside the ship windows changed from purple to green to a deep blue that seemed to move in strange patterns. Sue settled into a routine, helping where she could. Most of the crew was polite but distant. Kraz still watched her with suspicion. One morning, the ship's alarm sounded. Sue rushed to the bridge with the rest of the crew. "What's happening?" she asked Lumi, who stood by the main viewing screen. "Our sensors have detected something," the crystalline being replied. "A structure." Captain Zichthar pointed to a dark shape floating against the colorful backdrop of the nebula. "It appears to be a space station. Not coalition design, not matching any known species." The bridge fell silent. This was a major discovery, the first sign of unknown intelligent life they had found. "Scans show no life forms," reported Vingzora, her tentacles moving quickly over the navigation panel. "The station appears abandoned but still has power." The captain looked at his crew. "We will investigate. Myself, Commander Lumi, Dr. Grawl, and—" He paused, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "And Specialist Carter." Sue looked up in surprise. Kraz made a rumbling noise of disapproval. "Coalition protocol requires a minimum of 4 crew members for first contact situations," the captain explained, not looking at Sue. "Prepare for boarding in 30 minutes. In the preparation room, Sue put on her exploration suit. It was designed to protect against radiation and provide oxygen for up to 8 hours. Dr. Grawl was already there, checking his special methane supply. "First time on a boarding mission?" he asked through his mask. "Yes," Sue admitted. "But I've trained for it." Dr. Grawl's 6-fingered hands moved quickly as he checked his equipment. The captain could have chosen someone with more experience. Protocol says 4 crew members, Sue reminded him, and I'm the most expendable. The doctor's large eyes blinked. That is logical, but not reassuring. Sue smiled. I'll be careful. The 4 crew members boarded a small shuttle and approached the mysterious station. Up close, it was even more impressive. A massive ring structure with spikes extending outward like a star. The metal was dark and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They docked at what appeared to be an entry port. Captain Zekathar led the way, his weapon ready. The station's artificial gravity was still working, and the air was surprisingly breathable for most species, though Dr. Graal kept his methane suit on. This technology is unlike anything in Coalition records, Lumi said, her crystal body glowing softly to provide light in the dark corridors. It appears to be at least several thousand years old. They made their way to what seemed to be the main control room. Strange symbols covered the walls and control panels. Nothing was labeled in any language they recognized. Can you determine how to activate the main systems? The captain asked Lumi. The crystalline being moved around the room, touching panels and studying displays. The power system seems to be intact, but I cannot determine how to activate it. These controls do not match any known technological system in my memory. For hours they examined the station. Dr. Graal collected samples of the strange metal. The captain documented everything with his recorder. Lumi tried to make sense of the technology. Sue wandered to a different section of the control room. She studied a panel of symbols, her head tilted. Something about them seemed familiar. Captain, she called. Come look at this. Zekathar came over, his mandibles clicking impatiently. Have you found something? Maybe. Sue pointed to the symbols. These markings remind me of something from Earth history, an old writing system called cuneiform, one of our earliest forms of writing about 5,000 years old. And this helps us how? The captain asked. Well, if the symbols follow similar logic, then this sequence here probably means initiate or begin. Sue traced a pattern on the panel. See how these marks repeat at the beginning of each line? In cuneiform, that would indicate a command. The captain looked skeptical. You think you can read this alien language because it resembles ancient Earth writing? Not exactly, Sue said. But I think I might understand the pattern of it. Before the captain could stop her, Sue pressed a specific sequence on the panel. Nothing happened. Kraz, who had been monitoring from the ship, snorted over the comms. As I expected, he was interrupted by a low humming sound. The panel under Sue's hand began to glow, and suddenly lights flickered on throughout the room. Holographic displays appeared showing what seemed to be maps of the nebula. How did you do that? Zekathar demanded. Sue shrugged. Educated guess. Humans have about 10,000 years of written language history. We see patterns where others might not. Lumi moved quickly to the now active displays. This is remarkable. The station is providing detailed maps of the entire nebula, including safe travel routes and dangerous areas. Can you download this information? The captain asked, his tone now respectful. Yes, Lumi replied. This will save us months of dangerous exploration. For the next few hours, they explored the now active station. Dr. Graal found biological samples preserved in a laboratory. Lumi discovered a database of information about the nebula and the surrounding star systems. The captain found what appeared to be weapons technology far beyond anything the Coalition possessed. Who built this place, Sue wondered, as they prepared to return to their ship. And why did they abandon it? Perhaps we will find answers deeper in the nebula, the captain said. Thanks to the maps you helped us discover, we can now travel safely to regions we had planned to avoid. Back aboard the Nebula Seeker, the crew gathered to review their findings. Kraz examined the data on the station's technology with great interest. The power system is unlike anything I have seen before, he admitted. It seems to draw energy directly from the nebula itself. Could we adapt any of this technology for our own use? The captain asked. Kraz shook his head. The principles are too alien. It would take years of study to understand it. The ship continued its journey, now following the safe routes mapped out by the ancient station. The crew's attitude toward Sue had changed. They weren't exactly friendly, but they no longer looked at her as useless. One evening, Lumi found Sue in the observation lounge looking out at the nebula. "That was impressive work today," the crystalline being said, her body glowing softly in the dim light. "Just lucky," Sue replied. "Right place, right time. Perhaps, or perhaps this is why High Command assigned you to our mission." Lumi's crystal form shifted, creating small rainbows on the wall. "Humans see things differently. That can be valuable." Sue smiled. "I hope so. We're still trying to prove ourselves. In the coalition." "Today was a good start," Lumi said. Even Captain Zikathar was impressed, though he would never admit it. As Sue looked out at the swirling colors of the nebula, she felt a small sense of pride. One small step for a human, one giant leap for humanity's reputation in the galaxy. But she knew this was just the beginning of their journey, and there would be greater challenges ahead. 2 months into their journey, the Nebula Seeker pushed deeper into the Vortex Nebula than any coalition ship had ever gone. The maps from the ancient station guided them safely through dangerous radiation areas and strange gravity wells that would have been nearly impossible to detect with their sensors alone. Sue had earned a measure of respect from most of the crew. Even Kraz would sometimes ask her opinion on technical matters, though he always made it clear he was just gathering all possible input. Captain Zikthar called a meeting to discuss their next move. The crew gathered in the ship's conference room, looking at a holographic display of the nebula. "We have 2 options," the captain explained, his 4 eyes focusing on different parts of the map. "We can continue on this safe path, which will take us to the center of the nebula in about 3 weeks. Or we can take this shorter route, which will get us there in 1 week but passes through this area." He pointed to a section of the map that glowed an angry red. "What's in that area?" Sue asked. Lumi's crystal form flickered. "The ancient station's data calls it the Shimmer. It appears to be a region of intense radiation and unusual energy patterns. Our shields should protect us," Kraz said, his scales brightening with confidence. "And it would save us 2 weeks of travel time." Dr. Grall's methane mask hissed as he spoke. "The biological samples I collected from the station show evidence of cellular damage consistent with exposure to unknown forms of radiation. I would advise caution." The captain looked at each crew member. "We will put it to a vote. Those in favor of the shorter route?" Most of the crew raised their hands or tentacles, including Kraz. Only Dr. Grall, Lumi, and Sue voted against it. "Shorter route it is," Zikthar decided. "Set course for the Shimmer." 3 days later, they reached the edge of the dangerous region. The nebula here swirled with strange colors that seemed to move in patterns that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. "Shields at maximum," the captain ordered. "Proceed at half speed." The ship moved forward slowly. Everything seemed fine for the first hour. Then Sue noticed something strange on one of the monitoring screens. "Captain, the radiation levels are climbing faster than expected." Kraz checked his engineering station. "The shields are holding, but we're using more power than anticipated." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. "What was that?" Zikathar demanded. "Unknown energy surge," Vingsora reported, her tentacles moving rapidly over the navigation console. "It passed straight through our shields." Another surge hit, stronger this time. The lights flickered, and several control panels sparked. "Shields failing," Kraz shouted. "Main power coupling is overloading." "Reverse course," the captain ordered. "Get us out of here." The ship turned, but as they tried to leave the way they had come, another massive energy wave struck. This time the lights went out completely before emergency power came on, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "Damage report," Zikathar called out. Kraz's voice was grim. "Main power coupling is completely burned out. Life support is on emergency. Backup. We have approximately 18 hours before it fails completely." The crew fell silent as the gravity of their situation sank in. "Options?" the captain asked, looking around the dim bridge. Vingsora spoke first. "The nearest coalition outpost is 3 weeks away at our best speed. With emergency power, it would take even longer. We could enter stasis pods, suggested Dr. Grawl. They have their own power supply. Lumi's crystal form dimmed with concern. But the damaged systems may fail to revive us correctly. The risk is significant. The crew fell into despondent silence. Sue sat quietly, thinking. What about the station? She finally said. All eyes turned to her. The abandoned station? Captain Zikathar asked. It's 4 days away with our current power levels. No, I mean its technology, Sue explained. It had a power system unlike anything we've seen. Kraz said, it draws energy directly from the nebula itself. And I also said the principles are too alien to adapt, Kraz reminded her, his scales darkening with frustration. Maybe not, Sue said, leaning forward. I've been studying the data we downloaded. Their power system uses principles that aren't so different from our quantum batteries, just applied differently. That's absurd, Kraz rumbled. The technologies are completely incompatible. Are they? Sue pulled up some of the station's data on a nearby screen. Look at these energy flow patterns. They're similar to our own, just operating on a different scale and frequency. Lumi moved closer to examine the data. She may be right. There are similarities in the basic energy transfer principles. What are you suggesting? The captain asked. We'd need to completely reconfigure our power distribution network, Kraz argued. Not completely, Sue countered. Just enough to create a bridge between their technology and ours. We could build what I'd call a technological translator, a device that could convert the nebula energy into something our systems could use. The captain looked at Kraz. Could this work? The engineer's scales shifted through several colors as he considered. Theoretically, perhaps. But the risks are enormous. One miscalculation and we could overload what remains of our systems. And if we do nothing, we die in 18 hours, the captain pointed out. I prefer a risky chance to no chance at all. For the next 14 hours, Sue and Kraz worked side by side in engineering, arguing, theorizing, and improvising. They cannibalized secondary systems to build Sue's technological translator. The rest of the crew helped where they could, but mostly watched in nervous anticipation. This goes against every engineering principle I know, Kraz grumbled as they made the final connections. Sue wiped sweat from her forehead. That's the thing about humans, Kraz. We don't always follow the rules, especially when the rules say, we're about to die. With just under 4 hours of life support remaining, they were ready to test the device. The crew gathered in engineering. Captain Zikathar gave the order, activate it. Sue pressed a sequence of controls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the room and the lights flickered before growing stronger. The ship's systems began to come back online one by one. It's working, Lumi exclaimed, her crystal form brightening. The power levels continued to rise until they reached 80% of normal capacity. Kraz checked the readings with disbelief. The device is converting the nebula's energy into a form our systems can use. It's not perfect, but it's stable. Captain Zakathar looked at Sue with new respect. How did you know this would work? I didn't, Sue admitted, but humans have a long history of jury-rigging solutions in desperate situations. We call it MacGyvering, making something new out of whatever's available. Kraz studied the improvised device with a mix of professional curiosity and reluctant admiration. Your species creates order from chaos. It is unsettling but impressive. As the life support readings stabilized and the ship's normal lighting returned, the crew began to relax. They would still need to repair the main power coupling properly once they reached a safe area, but they would survive. Sue sat down, suddenly exhausted. She had just helped save an elite coalition crew using human ingenuity and what her grandfather would have called good old-fashioned elbow grease. Not bad, for a species that had only been spacefaring for 80 years. With the ship's power restored thanks to Sue's improvised solution, the Nebula Seeker continued its journey toward the center of the Vortex Nebula. Kraz had reinforced the technological translator device, making it more stable and efficient. The ship now operated at nearly full power, using the nebula's energy just as the ancient station had. Sue found herself included in more mission discussions. Captain Zakathar even asked for her opinion during planning sessions, something that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. After another week of travel, they reached their primary destination, a strange blue star at the very heart of the nebula. Sensors detected a planet orbiting the star, a world that the ancient station's data had marked as life-bearing. Preliminary scans show an atmosphere similar to standard coalition parameters, reported Vingzora from her navigation station. Gravity is 1.2 times Earth standard. Temperature ranges are within habitable limits for most crew members. Life signs? The captain asked. Dr. Grawl studied his science console. Abundant plant life, and, yes, animal life forms as well, including some that appear to show signs of intelligence. The bridge crew exchanged excited looks. This was a major discovery, a previously unknown intelligent species. We will establish orbit and send down a landing party, Captain Zakathar decided. Myself, Commander Lumi, Dr. Grawl, Vingzora, Specialist Carter, and 2 security officers. Sue felt a thrill of excitement. She would be among the first to set foot on this new world. The landing party took a shuttle down to the surface, touching down in a clearing surrounded by tall purple plants that resembled trees. The air was breathable, but had a sweet smell that reminded Sue of cinnamon. Stay alert, the captain warned as they exited the shuttle. We don't know how the native species will react to our presence. They didn't have to wait long to find out. Within minutes of their arrival, they spotted movement at the edge of the clearing. Strange, 6-limbed beings with iridescent skin emerged from the purple forest. They walked on 4 limbs and used the other 2 for gesturing. Their heads had no visible eyes, but instead a series of small openings that pulsed with light. Fascinating, Dr. Grawl whispered. Their biology is unlike anything in Coalition records. Captain Zakathar stepped forward slowly. Activate universal translators, he ordered. Then he addressed the aliens. Greetings. We come in peace as representatives of the Galactic Coalition. The beings made musical sounds that the translators couldn't process. More of them appeared surrounding the landing party. They don't seem hostile, Lumi observed. But they don't understand us either. The captain tried formal diplomatic protocols, presenting the official coalition greeting symbol, a holographic display showing the unified worlds. The aliens watched, their skin changing colors and patterns but showed no sign of comprehension. One of the beings approached closer, making more complex musical sounds. The landing party's translators struggled with the language, producing only fragments like visitors and sky and purpose. Their language may be too different for our translators to process, Vingzora suggested. It seems to rely heavily on tonal qualities and color changes. The situation grew tense as more aliens arrived. They began making rapid color changes across their skin, communicating with each other in ways the coalition team couldn't understand. They seem to believe we are here to claim their world, Lumi reported, analyzing their behavior patterns. Their postures suggest defensiveness. Captain Zakathar tried different diplomatic approaches, but the aliens became increasingly agitated. The security officers moved their hands closer to their weapons. Sue, who had been watching quietly, suddenly had an idea. Captain, may I try something? Before Zakathar could respond, Sue stepped forward, removed her uniform jacket, and lowered herself to the ground in a cross-legged sitting position. She gestured for the aliens to join her. The captain hissed in disapproval but didn't interfere. The aliens looked confused, but eventually several of them mimicked her posture, sitting in a circle around her. Then Sue began to hum a simple melody, gradually increasing in complexity. After a moment, one of the aliens joined in, adding strange harmonics that no human throat could produce. Soon all the aliens were participating in this impromptu musical exchange. What is happening? Dr. Grawl whispered. Vingzora's tentacles waved in fascination. I believe they're communicating through music. The aliens' skin colors shifted to match each other, creating patterns that pulsed with the rhythm of the sounds they made. Sue adjusted her humming to follow their patterns, creating a conversation of sorts through music and rhythm. After 20 minutes of this unusual interaction, Sue stood and the aliens stood with her. She bowed slightly, and they mimicked the gesture. She turned to the captain. "I think they'll speak with us now." "How do you know?" Zikathar asked, his mandibles slack with surprise. "They needed to establish that we could appreciate beauty before discussing practical matters," Sue explained. "Their communication is based on harmony, both in sound and color." One of the aliens stepped forward and made a series of sounds. This time the translators worked better. "Welcome, sky visitors, you sing with honest hearts." The tension dissolved. The aliens, who called themselves the Nixie, guided the landing party to their settlement, a beautiful arrangement of structures that seemed to grow from the ground itself. There, they met with the Nixie Council. Thanks to Sue's musical introduction, the negotiations proceeded smoothly. The Nixie granted the coalition permission to establish a research outpost on their world in exchange for medical and educational technologies. As they returned to the shuttle, Lumi's crystalline form sparkled with curiosity. "Your species has never actually encountered alien life before joining the coalition. How did you know to use music?" Sue smiled. "We've been imagining meeting aliens for centuries before we actually did. In many of our stories, we find ways to communicate through art, math, or music when language fails. Sometimes imagination prepares you for reality." Captain Zakathar studied Sue with newfound respect. "Your approach was unconventional, but effective. You established peaceful contact when our standard protocols failed. Humans have always been good at finding common ground," Sue said. "It's how we survived on our own world with so many different cultures and languages." Back on the ship, news of the successful first contact spread quickly. Kraz found Sue in the mess hall later that evening. "It seems your problem-solving specialty has some merit after all," the engineer admitted, his scales showing a pattern that Sue had learned meant grudging approval. "Thanks, Kraz. That means a lot coming from you." "The captain has recommended establishing a permanent research station in orbit around the Nixie world," Kraz continued. "This mission will be considered a great success." Sue looked out the viewport, at the beautiful blue star and its life-bearing world. The Nebula Seeker had traveled farther than any coalition vessel before it, discovered a new intelligent species, and established peaceful contact, and humanity had played a key role in that success. Perhaps now the other races of the coalition would begin to see what humans could contribute to galactic exploration. Not advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but creativity, adaptability, and the ability to find connection even across the vast differences between species. As the Nebula Seeker prepared to leave the Vortex Nebula and return to coalition space, the crew was busy organizing the wealth of discoveries they had made. The mission had been more successful than anyone could have imagined. They had mapped the entire nebula, discovered an ancient abandoned station, made first contact with the Nixie, and gathered valuable scientific data that would keep coalition researchers busy for years. Captain Zakathar called the crew together for a final meeting before they began their journey home. The ship's common room was crowded as all 13 crew members gathered. Even those who had been skeptical of the mission's chances at the beginning now stood tall with pride. "We have achieved every objective set by High Command," the captain began, his 4 eyes surveying his crew. "And we have done much more besides. Each of you has performed admirably under difficult and dangerous conditions." Sue stood at the back of the room, still feeling somewhat like an outsider despite her contributions. The captain's eyes found her. "Some of you exceeded all expectations," he continued. "Specialist Carter, please step forward." Surprised, Sue made her way to the front. The captain's mandibles twitched in what she had learned was a smile. "I must admit that when you were assigned to this mission, I had serious doubts," Zakathar said. "Humans have only been part of the coalition for a short time. Your species lacks the experience and advanced technology that the rest of us take for granted." Sue nodded, not sure where this was going. "And yet," the captain continued, "without you, this mission might have failed. Your ability to recognize patterns in the ancient station's controls gave us access to invaluable maps, Your unconventional solution to our power crisis saved our lives. Your creative approach to communicating with the Nixii established peaceful contact when our standard protocols failed. Lumi stepped forward, her crystal form glowing brightly. Humans see problems differently. Where we see obstacles based on established rules and expectations, you see possibilities. Kraz, who had been Sue's biggest critic at the start of the mission, spoke up. I have served on 17 deep space missions, and none have been as challenging or as successful as this one. Your methods are unorthodox, Sue Carter, but they are effective. Sue felt her face grow warm. I just did what anyone would do. No, said Dr. Grawl firmly. You did what a human would do, and that was exactly what we needed. The captain handed Sue a small device. I have recorded a special commendation for you in my official report to High Command. But more than that, I am recommending that all future elite exploration missions include at least one human crew member. Sue looked at the device in surprise. Because we're useful? Because you are necessary, the captain replied. Your species' unique perspective and problem-solving abilities complement our own in ways we did not anticipate. The Coalition has existed for over 1,000 years. We have perfected interstellar travel, unified diverse species, and developed technologies that seem like magic to younger races. But in our perfection, perhaps we have lost something that your species still possesses. What's that? Sue asked. Adaptability, creativity, the willingness to ignore established procedures when necessary and try something new. The captain's mandibles clicked together thoughtfully. In a universe full of unknowns, these qualities are invaluable. After the meeting, the crew celebrated with a meal together. The atmosphere was very different from their first dinner 2 months ago. Now there was laughter and friendly conversation. Even Kraz joined in, telling stories of his previous missions that always seemed to end with some disaster narrowly averted. But none of them compare to our adventure in the Shimmer, he admitted, his scales glowing with amusement. I still cannot believe your technological translator worked, Sue. Sue grinned. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts, even when all your training says it shouldn't work. A very human approach, Vingzora noted, her tentacles waving gently. My people spend years calculating every possibility before attempting something new, and my people only follow procedures that have been tested over centuries, added Dr. Grawl. It makes us efficient but perhaps less innovative. Later, as the ship's night cycle began, Sue stood alone on the observation deck. The Vortex Nebula was behind them now, its swirling colors gradually fading as they headed toward the familiar stars of Coalition space. Lumi joined her, the crystalline being's soft glow providing gentle light in the dimness. What will you do when we return? Lumi asked. Sue considered the question. I'm not sure. Request another deep space assignment, probably. There's so much out there to see. You have opened a door for your species, Lumi said. High Command will take notice of Captain Zekthar's recommendation. More humans will be assigned to elite missions. I hope so, Sue replied. We've waited a long time for a chance to prove ourselves. Your species joined the Coalition seeking knowledge and new experiences, Lumi observed. Other races joined, for protection or trade or technology. That difference is significant. Humans have always been explorers, Sue said. Even when we had only wooden ships, we set out across oceans not knowing what was on the other side. A brave and foolish thing to do, Lumi noted, her crystal form flashing with amusement. Maybe that's our specialty, Sue suggested. Being brave enough to be a little foolish. As the Nebula Seeker continued its journey home, Sue thought about what would happen when they reached Coalition space. Their discoveries would be studied and celebrated. The Nixii would be welcomed into the galactic community. The technology from the ancient station would be analyzed for years to come. And perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's place in the Coalition would change. No longer the newcomers, the primitives who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. Instead, valued members who brought something special to every crew they joined. Sue smiled at the thought. 100 years ago, humans had looked up at the stars and dreamed of meeting alien life. Now they were out among those stars, making a difference in the vast community of intelligent species. It turned out that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or ancient wisdom. It was their uniquely human way of thinking, the ability to see problems from new angles, to improvise solutions from whatever was available, to find connection even across vast differences. And that was something every elite alien crew could use.